As you all well know, this is Ask an Agent Anything. What does that mean? It is Tuesday at 1 o'clock Pacific Coast time. Corianne will be on in just a minute. She's having some technical difficulties, but right now the party is started with myself, and a face you guys haven't yet met and need to know is Mr. Alexander Whitfield. How are you, sir?
Hey, love, how are you?
I'm excellent. In fact, I'm just lying a little bit because this background here, I'm actually in New York City. I'll be here
Hey.
till just after Labor Day. So I'm still working. I'm not taking any some time off. But don't feel bad for me. I went for a delicious walk in Central Park today and got discovering all new things. I know it's like first world problems, right?
That is amazing.
Sister City. Yeah. Still your SoCal gal, but I have an opportunity to be out here for a while. Anyway, enough about me. Tell the group, where are you? Where are you coming in from? I see you're driving a fancy car in the background. So you're coming in from
Yeah, it's a bucket list car. But I am out of St. Louis. I've been an agent for 16 years, and I've been an Astro student for just over a year, coming up on a year and a half. And it has been a blessing in my life. I learn something new every day about real estate that I never knew in my 16 years of being an agent. So this is definitely a place to learn. I am here as a guide. So if you need anything, have any questions, definitely here to help out.
I love that. And St. Louis, I mean, that's not a town we hear about all the time. I think it's synonymous with some Budweiser beer. Is that right? And the Arch.
You definitely would have to make a brewery tour a part of your visit here. It's free. People get to see where their beer money goes, because I can tell you those horses that's on your beer can, those horses get treated better than anything you could ever imagine. They got their own space, their own handlers, their own stalls, and the stalls are like over 100 years old. Beautiful millwork. They have their own stable with a huge chandelier. It's amazing. So, and then at the end of the tour, the free tour, they give you beer for free. So it's pretty awesome. Definitely.
That is a four-letter word that we all love, right?
Yeah.
And then beer.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you
Free and beer.
free
They
and
go
beer?
hand in hand.
That sounds like the best walkthrough of real
It
estate.
is. It is.
Tell me. Little known fact about your girl, God, it was probably 25 years ago, maybe even longer. I had a layover and the airlines put us up in a hotel, and the next flight out wasn't until something like, 5 o'clock the next day. So I actually did that to her and got the free beer.
Nice. Yeah.
I know.
So you got to see it then. Yeah.
Exactly. And baseball and the Arch. So
cool.
I love that you said 16 years. So you and I have a lot of similarities, because I technically had 19 years, July 5th of this year. I can't believe I'm saying that.
Me too.
What have you seen? Because part of why we're doing Ask an Agent Anything is to really combine, the conversation between traditional retail agent and then the investors, because oftentimes it's like oil and water. We have a love-hate relationship with each other. And you're also an Astro Flipping student, as myself and Corianne. And for those of you who don't know the Astro Flipping community, we can talk about that in a little bit. But it's basically a paid mentorship to better understand wholesaling as a specific strategy. But really, it's also the community at large, talking to and working with investors. And there aren't as many licensed agents. And I don't even think there's really but maybe a handful of people that have the kind of years you and I have. So all that said, what had you join the community, and has that actually helped you in your business in St. Louis, working with investors?
It is both transcendent and eye-opening, knowing all of these different strategies exist. Hello, there she is.
Hi. I'm just listening backstage now at this point. Hi, everybody. Sorry I'm late.
Hi. Love her. Absolutely love her.
I love you too. Excited for your story.
It has been eye-opening, transcendent, and life-changing, and those words I do not use lightly, period. I've been through enough stuff in my life to where those words have been absent, but now they are all around me, and it's definitely one of those things that anybody that's coming in, I am envious that they got to see this before I did, because you think when you're an agent that you know everything and you've learned all there is to learn, and that is absolutely not true. There are so many ways to be able to not only make a living but succeed by learning, astro flipping and programs that are synonymous with it.
Amen. Miss Corianne, are you going to join us? I don't make sure you're there.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. No, you're on.
I think I'm finally figuring out some kind of tech situation
Yeah,
for the day.
it's super clear right now. It's super clear, no lag, no nothing. So whatever you did, that's awesome.
I think we're finally figuring out that it might not have been the internet. It might have been an old computer. So I'm just like in this tech hole of fixing one thing and finding another, but I'm glad my iPad allows me to be here with our people. Hi, everybody that's tuning in. I missed our little intro, but I just want to remind you that we are here on Ask an Agent Anything to create that bridge between the investor and the agent and how we can work together. And Alexander is that bridge by just existing, because he is both of those things in the same way that I am, in the same way that Renee is. And so today's fireside chat mode, y'all, we're just going to be talking about what we're doing in our businesses, what's working, what's not. Just be in the comments, be in the chat. I want to hear what you guys have, what kind of questions you got going on, because really this is for everybody, not just for us. Yeah. But I'm excited to be here.
Isn't that fun? I know. Alexander has 16 years. I have 19 years. And tell me again, you're 4? I should know this. How many years have you been licensed?
I should know this. 3. I've only been licensed for 3, y'all. 2021, I got my license, almost exactly 3 years in this August. That's actually kind of crazy. I'm coming up on my anniversary. But 5 years investing. So I came in, don't take this dirty, but I came in the back door and then was like, wait, maybe I need my license. And I think that happens to a lot of people that get into just starting with wholesaling. They're like, what's going wrong? What do I need to fix? What do I need to have? And you start to spin. And I was like poster child of that. I did my first flip. I got my license. I didn't really know what direction to go until I think I started to get around the right people who are really pushing and unfolding that for me. But yeah, I started the wholesale journey first. Now, both of you guys had your license obviously for a clear amount of time. How was just holding your license before you got into the investment side, and what drew you to investment?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. You want me to answer that? Are you going?
Ladies first.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's interesting. I mean, I've kind of alluded to the story before, if not told it. It's been many episodes ago, but way back yonder in 2007, when the market shifted, I had my license, technically my license, like you, Corianne, I'd been working and dabbling in investing, right? But I got my license in July of 2005. So basically like my first year or so was a traditional year. And back then they were sort of giving out non-stated loans. I mean, that's how we got into this mess basically in 2007, 8, 9, 10, and all of that. And I rode that up and I had a great, if you would, first year. And then right into the second year, 2007 happened. And I immediately did REOs and short sales because I think I would have been out of the business. I mean, everybody was having to, state their loans at this point, and everyone was writing everything off in LA like they make $2 because it's primarily entertainment industry, right? So people are all 1099ing everything. It was very difficult to get clients that were just a W-2 client that could, afford, et cetera. So I shifted and I started working with investors because of the REO accounts, because of the short sales, and they were cash purchasers. And what I realized is that avatar person was my person. They're just a different decision making. It isn't as prolonged, in my opinion. They're kind of like, do the numbers make sense? Let's go. And so I just basically stuck with that. It's kind of been a niche of mine. I still do regular traditional retail if it comes my way, but I don't market for it. So wholesaling is not just who I am. I don't consider myself a wholesaler, but any investor with any investor exit strategy, small lot development, ready to issues, flips, creative buy and holds, like that kind of stuff. I'll have that conversation. So that's how my business has kind of evolved in that way, is I had to, and then I realized I really liked it and stuck with it. So you never know what the day is going to bring you.
Absolutely.
Love that. That is absolutely awesome.
What about you?
Well, how has it affected me? Let's just say in the very beginning, I had a bad teacher with good intentions. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I am a very loyal person. So I stuck with this person probably a little longer than I should. Um, but leaving that person that was my first brokerage ever, was Century 21. And I ended up leaving from there to go to Remax. And it was like night and day. You know, I had a person who didn't necessarily care and wanted to just get what they could out of me. And the next place was like, oh, we'll help you with everything. So it was like, okay, so there's a world outside of that place that is better. So it was really nice and a breath of fresh air to be able to do that change. Um, and with that being said, anybody that is listening, whether you're listening live or you listen to this later, I would definitely advise interviewing multiple brokerages and seeing which one fits you best before you just get a license and run to the first place like your hair's on fire. You really do have to vet the place that you're going and see if it works for you. I would advise that to anyone. So um, after I got my feet wet in Remax, I started to understand, instead of getting phone calls from investors, I wanted to know what I could do to become an investor, because the rule and the cadence to getting into being an agent is, somebody said to me, if you ever want to be wealthy, get into real estate. But nobody said to me, don't get into it as just being an agent, because I thought that for the longest time. I learned that lesson so you guys don't have to. Getting into it and being an agent is great, but that should not be your only arm. You should definitely get into investing. The yields are higher. Nobody's taking a portion of your money. So, I mean, it really is a better way to do things, but investment doesn't always fit every single scenario. So being an agent really does give you that net to allow you to be able to move in multiple directions. You're the queen, whether you're male or not. You're the queen on the chessboard. So you have the most moves and you're the most lethal if you are an agent. So it really does help paint that perfect picture.
Ooh, that's so
I love
good.
it.
You know, that's interesting you're saying that, because in all of my 19 years, probably in your 16 years, right? I've been at several different brokerages, and honestly, everybody has served me along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Now that, and I have wholesale before my career, but now that wholesaling is more of a thing and more somewhat accepted, as agents out there who are listening to the show, if not only if you're thinking of getting your license, but then as Alexander said, where are you going to hang that license? I actually am at a brokerage now that is really like a flat fee brokerage, to be honest with you, because I'm so far into my career that unless I was really selling maybe high end, so I live in LA, a lot of the shows are in LA. So if it was like the agency or Hilton Highlands, you know, something to where you're selling kind of on the West Side or Beverly Hills, you know, the 30, 40, 10, 30, $40 million homes that really need like a solid brokerage under them. But outside of that, with respect to the brokerages, you don't really need it necessarily. Now, I think Keller Williams does a really good job of starting with the new agent. If you don't know a lot, that was always their model, is to help the newer agent get going. But outside of that, they should call them Richers. They shouldn't call them brokers, because I'm telling you, man, the splits and everything else, and if you're trying to do wholesaling, you really want to consider what that looks like, so that you can maybe do smaller deals, like a $5,000 wholesale deal. That's not going to go over well at, you know, Compass or KW or even Remax necessarily. So
Right.
you're right, Alexander. Make sure that you interview people if this is the path you're going to
Mm-hmm.
wholesaling. If you're just working with investors and you're going to be repping them as a buyer's agent, then that's a different consideration. But these are
Right.
all considerations, right, that I've learned along the way. Like you said, that's why I've been at different brokerages, because they just didn't really serve what my business model was, even though they were really great brokerages. So don't make anybody wrong out here as far as a broker, but most brokers do not understand and don't want to understand the investor world. I'm going to say something really controversial. That's my opinion. I think that's the case because you can often get paid on a HUD, but not necessarily run that through your broker. So if you're doing like a creative deal or even a wholesale deal, you can just have that assignment sent to you in your LLC. You don't have to run it through your broker. And secretly, brokers don't want you to know that. So it's too much of a liability and they don't want you to know that. So they're never going to bring it up. This is why you want to start to come to programs like this, to just know what you're saying no or know what you're saying yes to. and when you're choosing a brokerage. That's a big one if you're going to stick into the wholesale field.
This is
I
something we
love
have to
that.
talk about no matter where you're coming from, but of course we're sticking in the real estate world. But that was my issue in wholesaling is I got planted in the wrong soil. And I ended up with a bunch of people that taught wholesaling from an angle that wasn't ethical is the best way that I can put it. But more importantly, it like didn't work with the way that I wanted to show up with integrity in my heart. And it required me finding astro flipping, which is where we all met, to be able to say like, hey, there is a better way to do this. And most of the time that better way is with more communication and more honesty. And I needed that to get good at this game. And I think that's the same thing for any brokerage. If you want to just do the traditional game, more power to you. There's a lot of goodness in that. Like honestly, it is a service job. It
Yeah.
is taking care of people. It's therapy. There's honestly so many aspects to that job that when people just say traditional works for me, I go more power to you. Thank goodness. But then make sure that you're planting your feet with people that believe in the same things that you do so that you can truly grow. Because it's really just about choosing your soil.
And I love that. I love that you point out the fact that, people who are doing the traditional path, it's still a very respectable job. It's a respectable service thing as far as being able to serve the public because like Renee said, like right now, I'm not actively looking for buyers anymore. But the people who do reach out to me, I tell them, I said, if you need my help, I'll definitely show up. If you need my help, I'll show up. I'm just not actively pursuing that anymore like I used to. But I take a lot of pride in the transactions that I have had. And I mean, I can say right now that 99.9 of people that I've done a transaction with, they love me and they come back. Absolutely. So it's definitely a public service job as long as you care and your feet are planted in the right place with the right people.
Absolutely.
Into that.
I think we've got some good questions in the
Yeah,
chat.
we see them, right?
They're rocking and rolling fast. So I want to pull one up here. Jordan says, has having your license made investing or wholesaling difficult in any way? Alexander, do you want to
Ladies
kick that one
first.
off?
You sure?
Yeah, go for it. You're our guest.
You're our guest here.
Yeah,
We chat all
I
the
get
time.
it, but I'm also a gentleman. So my mom sees this and she don't see that I offered. I'm gonna give it.
Mom, he's good. We know him. You did
Right.
good. Thank you.
Jordan, I would say it is the polar opposite to that question. It has helped us in a lot of ways because when you are speaking to whether you're direct to seller or you're to a wholesaler or even a lender, you have a lot more respect than the average bear because they do know that you are cultivated in real estate, especially the laws that have to do with real estate. So they give you more leeway in conversation, negotiations, paperwork, the entire process from beginning to end. And after the transaction, you are a person that they would reach out to before they would reach out to the average person. So, Jordan, it has definitely helped a lot. But I also don't want to discourage anybody who doesn't have a license because I have seen literal miracles happen with people who don't have a license. I've seen them do things that I have yet to do. So even if you don't have a license and you choose not to pursue it that way, you are not in the bleachers. You're still in the game. So don't ever think that having a license is an end all be all. You're still out here with us. We still throw you the ball. The public still responds to you well. It's just having a license gives you that leg up. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And also, I wouldn't say it's made it difficult in any way. If anything, it's been interesting with social media. I'm going to bring that in for a minute because wholesaling's been around for a really long time, and you can wholesale anything. You can wholesale a car. You can, it's not just houses, right? That's kind of how it's got its popularity. You're basically just trading a contract, if you will. So it's always been a little bit of an old boys club. And, you know, it was kind of like the Kiwanis and the Knights of Columbus type of thing. Like, oh, okay, I know somebody who wants something, and how about we just kind of do the deal, you know, not a dirty deal, just do the deal. Like, oh, you want something, and I know the seller, they're wanting to sell it. How about I just put a finder's fee on top of it? Basically, that's the assignment fee. So that's kind of how it started. But man, with social media, I've never in my life seen so many people who wanted to get into real estate and not get their license. I agree with Alexander that getting your license now, even though the dirty secret with agents are, we will look at each other's DRE numbers and we can tell how long somebody has been in the business. So just because you get your license doesn't necessarily give you the leg up in respectability. So if you have a very old DRE number, then the fellow agent is going to go, you've been in the business for a minute. And maybe that's where the respect is earned. But I will say that because wholesaling has become so popular, specifically wholesaling, it's coming to a state near you. So if you get your license sooner than later, probably not the worst thing. And just know that if you don't have the money to get your license and sustain it, then, you know, stick with the luck that we have right now where you don't have to be licensed and just make your money. And then if you want the longevity in this business, then get your license and have that respectability and all that, also that flexibility. It does allow you access to the MLS, but you're probably going to spend, I'm going to go on the high side, but upwards of maybe $1,500 to $2,000 a year just to sustain your license. So it's not a freebie. It's not like, oh, I got my license and now there's no cost to it. So yes, you have access to the MLS, but if you can't do any of that, get in touch with an agent like any of the three of us on here, and, you know, then you hitch your wagon to your wheel and we'll help you before you get your license.
Absolutely.
I will always bring devil's advocate. I've got some pitfalls for you that make it a little bit more difficult. And you guys can, of course, come at me if you think that these don't even apply. But I think the first one is looking at yourself long and hard in the mirror and ask yourself if you are creatively distracting yourself with more education and more homework instead of picking up the phone and talking to people. Because whether or not you have a license or whether you're just doing traditional wholesaling as an investor or whatever you've got going on, I promise you've got to pick up the phone and talk to people. And at least for myself, that's what I was doing. I got my license because I was like, people are not bringing me deals. But really, I just was like scared of the phone. Like, let's be honest. So I think there's one aspect. I do agree with Renee. If you've looked at yourself long and hard in the mirror and recognize that that is not the case, it is always going to be worth having your license. Now, there's two other things to note, though, that are kind of just awarenesses within having your license while you're wholesaling. Is one, that you will get the objection if you're direct to agent often of, well, what do you need me for? And the answer is, I don't actually. You're absolutely right. I don't need you, but I really like to make sure that my friends get paid. And I was curious if you were looking for more closings to get paid in. But that is an objection that you receive when you have the license and you're going direct to agent. And then the third one is that you really need to be clean with your documentation. You need to know, did I get paid as a wholesaler or did I get paid as a licensed person? Did that go to the direct funnel? Because just like Renee said, yeah, there are times where I don't have to pay my broker for a closing because it was done in my LLC, which is a completely different.
Oh, we lost her. She's coming back.
Give it a second. She'll come back. I have faith. No, there she is. I told you.
She's back. Okay.
I don't know what happened. I was smooth and grooving over here. But the most important point there is you've got to make sure that you know what funnel and direction that money is coming from, and it's going the right direction. Because there are sometimes I'm not getting paid as a licensed person because I did not do anything in regards to my license in that process. My LLC contracted something with the seller and then resold it. That had nothing to do with my license, but I have to be very aware of when does it cross over and when doesn't it. And there are times where it can almost get fuzzy and I've got to make sure that I know. So I think that can be where it gets difficult, especially as you're looking towards tax season, multiple LLCs, that kind of fun stuff. So you don't need it, but man, does it make it better. I personally think it does. Makes my life easier.
I will say this to your point. Corianne, one of the like you said, it's a very common objection when you talk to an agent and they go, well, if you have MLS access, what do you need me for? And this is what I say, and it works every time. I just say, they go, well, what do you need me for if you have MLS access? And it's a very simple thing. It's that I don't know everybody that you know. Most of the stuff I'm looking for is off market. I'm looking for the relationships that you have. That is the value that you bring. And that's why your phone rang today, is because you've met sellers that I haven't met. You've run across properties that you either couldn't sell, or they weren't ready to sell, or they weren't market ready. This is a relationship based business. So, hello, my name is Alexander, and I'm interested in a lot of the relationships that you have. And I hope that there's a way for me to bring value to those relationships. That's why I need you. And that is the space where the MLS becomes useless, because you walked to your client's house and knocked on the door and they said, hey, help me sell my house. And then you turned around and looked at it and it's not market ready. That's where I come in. So even when people do give you those objections, having different avenues to handle those objections is definitely a good thing.
That is so good. And
That was butter smooth.
wasn't it butter smooth? It's like,
Yeah.
hey, hello, my name is Alexander. Let's start over.
Let's start over. Don't, and it's like people, agents definitely, even with other agents, guys, they get defensive when you're not approaching them in a retail aspect. They go, okay, well, you're an agent, but you're trying to buy it this way. So what are you doing? And you really have to be able to calm the waters in those conversations. It's like there's no reason to be defensive. You know, there may be a day when you need me. You need somebody that can buy this house off market because it's unsellable. Because guys, you really have to realize this is a people to people business. And how many people do you know, homeowners, that have 50, 60, $70,000 to renovate their house to make it market ready? That's a very small margin of people that can do that. And then it's also sometimes it's counterproductive for them to do that because it takes them into further debt.
Mm-hmm.
So you really have to look at this, as Jamil said on the last call, you kind of got to step back and look at things from far away. So don't always get caught up in that conversation when they go, hey, well, you got a license. What do you need me for? I need you for a lot of things, a lot of things. And so do your sellers. So it just makes it a lot easier when you understand the ins and outs of these things. And it's still our job as agents, whether we're operating under that umbrella or not, to be protective of the public. Your client that I don't know, but you've met, does not have $60,000 to renovate that house so you can get a listing. So how about I get you paid? How about I get their house bought and we can come to the closing table? Everybody makes money.
Mm-hmm. This is an interesting market too. I think, Alexander, because you've seen so much change, and Corianne, because you're just so perspective, have a perspective on what's happening in the world, that I have an opinion. And my predictive opinion is that with this NAR change, because a lot of people for the last 10, 12 years rode a market up, it has not been that difficult. Yes, it's been challenging to get your offer accepted because there's not as many homes for sale. Got that. But this is a skill. It's always been, it will always be a skills-based market. But in an up market, you don't necessarily have to have as many skills. You can basically put your shingle in the yard and the house will sell and you will get paid. Now that this NAR situation has come around, I have a prediction that there are going to be fewer agents out there, and getting your license is not going to be necessarily more difficult, but just sustaining and being an independent contractor all alone, brand new, is going to be even more challenging. So why I'm bringing this up is not so much to be defensive, right, to the agent who might give you some flack, but like what Alexander said is, we really are in this together. And I'm asking the audience to listen in a macro down the road way. Maybe not tomorrow. Everyone's a little defensive right now because this thing just hit, right? Give it another year, it'll calm down, no big deal. But guess what? That agent, like Alexander said, has a bunch of buyers. And so in the astro flipping model, there's something called micro flipping. So is there a potential that you can actually utilize the agent, if you will, as the micro flipper? I've done that. So it's way advanced on how to make that work on paper. But again, thinking bigger on how can you create more relationships with the conversations that you're having? It's not just that you're dialing up an agent and saying, what do you have that's off market that I can move? It's how can we actually create a longevity relationship here? Because if you are going to prospect agents, to me, that is the long play. You may not get paid right away like you will if you do a micro flip or a wholesale with another investor. However, that's very transactional. If you want the long road, that's why having relationships with agents is also important. And so how can you squeeze all of the juice out of that lemon? You can JV with the agent. You can say, what do you have that's off market? You can micro flip with the agent. So that might be another conversation for another day, but there's a like 3 or 4 plays when you're making that call. You don't want to overwhelm the agent first, but this is what you're utilizing that agent relationship for down the road, because they won't know what micro flipping is. They barely know what wholesaling is. This is not first go. It's just to create a relationship. But Alexander, am I like blowing hot air? Does that make sense? Is that something?
No, it makes perfect sense. And I love the way that you structured that because, I mean, as agents, we are problem solvers. That's our job. We solve problems. And I would say if you're not a problem solver, it's probably not for you because they come up frequently. And some of the best agents in the world say, if I haven't had 5 problems in a transaction, something's wrong. Like it's going too smooth. They get nervous when there's no problems because they're like, what am I got to fix something. What is it? What is it? And part of what you said, definitely you have multiple avenues when you do a deal with an agent. And I will say, guys, like when you finally do get a deal with an agent, whether you are an agent or you're a wholesaler, performing on the deal is number one. That is paramount, especially if you are an agent, because they were skeptical at first. But when you get to that closing table, the next time that an opportunity comes up, guess who they're going to call? They're going to call you, whether you're a wholesaler or an agent who is wholesaling. Performing on the deal is absolute paramount. And knowing, like what Renee said, you have multiple options. You can split the profit with them. That's a lot more than they would get just selling the house on the market. So you can split the profit with them. You can do all these different things. So learning this business model is like I said in the very beginning, it is definitely something I would recommend to anyone.
Amazing.
All
Corianne.
right. Giant stinky elephant, I think, that might be in this room for at least our friends that are watching who might not have a license. Do you know how many people hate agents and realtors? Like, it's craziness out there.
Yeah.
And one of the big comments, the opinion, the objection is that we're lazy as all get out and we don't know what we're doing. And so I think even as we look at this, like, how do we go into depth to utilize agents? I want us each to address, how do you know it's a good agent that's worth your time? Because there's also ones that are not. So you guys being in this industry so long, like what are the tells, what are the signs, what are the questions that you ask on the phone to vet these agents before you're giving them the time of a relationship with you?
That's a good one. Usually it's the role reversal, I would think, right, Alexander? Like I'm the one getting grilled. I'm the one getting the attitude, the tonality. I mean, let's just call a spade, right? Like we're just going to speak very frankly. I'm not making the other agent wrong. It's just that right now the agent is getting hounded by everyone who wants to be a wholesaler. Hey, what do you have off market? What's in it for me? What's in it for me? What's in it for me? How about you come at it with, I want to bring you some value too. Right. So I actually start my conversations off that way and they still grill me. And then I say, look, this is just, I'm just looking to see if you and I even have any simpatico here and if there's a relationship that we can create moving forward to support each other. I just leave it very sort of like neutral, first date. Like, do we want to get to second date, third date, fourth date? Like that's a closed deal, right? But you kind of have to like zhuzh and get in there. We're not so quick to open the kimono. Like we've been in this business for a minute. We are not going to give away our trade secrets, even though there aren't any trade secrets. So it's kind of like, who are you? You just called me out of nowhere. The only redeeming quality that all 3 of us have is we actually have a DRE number. I've literally had agents say, because I put my DRE number if I do a text campaign, and I've literally had agents say, oh, I looked you up. Or I put my full name in there, which you can see is very unusual. Oh, I looked up your name on the internet, like you're a legitimate person. I mean, this is what agents are up to right now. So they're doing their homework. Now, I would say an agent that has that much free time probably isn't my A-list agent. But it's okay, because if you're going to do 1 or 2 deals with 20 different agents in a year, that's kind of to be expected versus the one agent who's maybe a probate agent or divorce, has real relationships with divorce attorneys and things like that, who are always getting opportunities. I don't know. I just say, like, just be a resource and a value to the person that you're speaking with in life, and then it'll start to diffuse. The other thing I've also mentioned here is language patterns. So I've studied emotional intelligence, and I really bring that forth because a lot of the emotional intelligence hits the brain differently. Like, oh, it sounds like, it seems like, it looks like. Now I'm over here with the person. I'm actually having a conversation with them versus combating, what they're saying and being reactive to what they're saying, because energetically that just doesn't get anywhere. So I've noticed in playing with that on the phone, that's gotten me professionally further than any one thing I could actually say. So I don't know if that quite answered the question, but it's really just kind of being friends first. Like, hey, I don't really need you in the background, right? I don't really need you, fellow agent, but I'm here to just listen. It's getting harder out here. I'll say that. It's getting harder out here. We really need each other. How can we maybe, conjure up some business and do some deals together? I just want to stay in communication with you, and I'll hear the tone go down from there. And then you keep in touch with them every week, every other week, text message, call, text message, call. It's probably going to take you 6 months to earn that trust, but then they'll come around and they'll say, hey, Renee, you've been following up with me for like 6 months. And that's some level of legitimacy. You're not a fly by night at that point. And now you're going to be friends. Don't take things so personally. It's hard not to when people get angry at you on the phone, but really, honestly, don't take it so personally. Folks are just frustrated out here, and it's hard right now. Inflation's high, things are expensive, all the things, right? So you never know where somebody's at in their day.
I like that. I think it's so good to hear kind of how your perspective is on, especially cold call after cold call after cold call. My initial thought is, oh, it almost sounds too nice. So I'm curious now, Alexander, are you also just as nice? Or
No,
do you have a different way of approaching it? Give it to me.
no. Let me once again bring my mother up in this conversation. My mother is Creole, and if you don't know what that is, it's down south and it's mixed up with a lot of different stuff. But the reason I bring that up is a gift that I got from her is being able to read people. Not everybody got that, but I definitely did. And one of the things that is little known in the agent world to the general public is that I can fire you as a buyer. I can, and I have. You really are not going to get along with every person. I have fired people multiple times in real estate transactions because what the general public thinks is that you're an agent, so you need to sell my house. No, I don't. Especially not if it's going to be difficult around every single turn. You're going to be difficult with paperwork. You're going to be difficult with closing. You're going to be difficult with getting the house ready. Who wants that? Nobody wants that. So try to understand, agent or no agent, when you go out into this, there are going to be some people that you simply do not gel with. You're not going to. Don't spend time beating yourself up about that because it's normal human interaction. You're not going to get along with everybody. Now, with that being said, every great teacher has had the very same cadence on this point. Napoleon Hill, Brian Tracy, all these guys have all said the same thing. You help as many people get what they want, and you will get what you want. So when you make these phone calls, you have to come into that conversation as a point of service. You are here to help. You are here to solve problems. You are here to be a resource. Those points along every conversation that you meet should be ringing in the back of your head. So everything that comes out of your mouth is standing on that platform. You are here to help. So even if they're defensive, you are saying, okay, that's perfectly fine. I just wanted to introduce myself. And then, like Renee said, you reach back out in a couple of weeks and say, hey, I'm still here. I'm just here to help and things of that nature. Eventually, as human nature goes, they will slowly start breaking down their defenses. And on the optimistic side, you will become a friend, because that's what this business is about. It's relationships. You'll become a friend with that person. And just like with Jamil, he started off with, I can't remember her name, but she's an agent that he works with all the time. That relationship has started off with nothing and has turned into $1 million a year or more relationship, with him being in the wholesale position and her being an agent. So that's how high this can go, depending on your communication skills and intentions when you make those phone calls. You really have to come from a place of service, because if you don't come from that, I really don't suggest you be here,
Yeah.
because it is what makes us who we are in this business. It's the only path to getting forward. Because if you come in here trying to get, you're trying to extract something out of these people, they're gonna notice it, because all you're calling about is trying to make something, make something, make something. And the better you are at being of service, the richer you'll be. That's just the rule of the day. Believe me.
Mm,
And
I
I always
love
say
that.
karma's a bitch and God is watching.
Yep. Yep. Be here to be of service, be here to help people. And I mean, everybody needs money. The money will come. Just make sure that you're here, and as a point of service, that you're here to help them get what they want, and helping them get what they want in every transaction, you're going to get paid too. And your relationship will build from those transactions. And again, I would rather have 10 dimes than $1. So every relationship that you make, that's a dime, that's a dime, that's a dime. But each dime can turn into 10 dimes depending on your relationship with that person. That one agent you got good with, or those 5 agents, that's 50 deals per person. That's
Mm,
how valuable that relationship is. So try your best, be it an agent or not, to think of things not in the face value, but in the long run. Look at yourself 5 years from now and say, I did 20 deals with Renee. She's great. And somebody, whether they're a friend or an agent or a seller, is going to hear that conversation and say, oh, really? So who's Renee? What does she do? And the next thing you know, there's that second deal, the third deal, the fifth deal, the 10th deal. It's all about relationships, guys, period.
Yep.
I love that the underlying thread, no matter how you approach it, that you both have brought up here is intention. Like, I
Yeah.
think that's one of the biggest things that I had to learn was that if I'm a white knuckler, I'm honest about this. I tell everybody this. Like, I generally come from that place. It's one of my character flaws. I'll hang on until I make it work, even if I'm banging my head up against a wall when there's a door
Me
right next
too.
to me. Like, I'm one of
Yeah.
those. And I'm learning that about myself, but I'm pulling that back. But one of the reasons, or one of the things I've learned that I'm taking action on, is that if I'm not in the right intention of I am here to serve, somebody on the other end needs what I can bring to the table, then I have to get up, I have to walk away, I have to recenter and find it, and then sit my butt back down to do it again. Because
Hmm.
there's no need, like, don't do it, guys. Don't bang your head up against the wall if you don't have that intention of serving. Let yourself go on the walk, go squeeze a family member, whatever it takes to be back in that place, because otherwise you are wasting your time without that intention while you're doing that work.
Hmm. And Corianne, I'm so glad that you brought that up, because that goes back to what I had to learn the hard way, and I would not wish that on anybody, because you and I are a lot alike. We are givers, we're lovers, we're compassionate. We want people to be happy to have us around. But what happened to me mentally during that space, being in a new agent, is I couldn't tell the difference between being used and being of service. And that is a very important lesson to learn when you are getting into this business as an agent. A lot of these brokerages, especially the smaller ones, they are there to squeeze the blood from a stone, and unfortunately you can end up being the stone. So really look at the situations and come on here and ask us, because we're experienced. We can definitely tell you if the things that they're having you do, especially if those things don't have anything on the other end of it, you might want to reconsider where you are, because these, especially if you're inexperienced, it's almost like small children. Like, you can tell when a person has no experience. And if you're dealing with what I was dealing with, I have zero experience, and I'm walking into a brokerage where the woman has been the broker owner for 30 years. She can smell it on me that I've never done nothing. I'm standing there bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, whether to do whatever she asked me to do. And I did it for 8 years. I should have left in 4.
Yeah.
I learned enough in the first 4 years that I should have left, but I didn't. I'm a loyal person, so I gave her 4 more years of stuff that I should not have gave her. So you really have to look at these situations and gauge your loyalty and benefits together. Those things should go when you're in the right place. Your loyalty and the benefits from being loyal should go hand in hand. They should be a handshake in your career. And if they are not, you really are going to have to start analyzing things and getting advice from people like Corianne and Renee.
Amen. It's and I'll yes to what you said, and I'll put it back on us individually. It's a personal responsibility to better understand, know thyself. What are your boundaries? What are your standards? This is just knowing yourself. It has everything and nothing to do with real estate specifically. It's like your work and career equity, so people unfortunately will take advantage, maybe willingly or unwillingly. And it's knowing when to say no. No is a
Right.
sentence, right? And you can say it with power, say it with your chest, say it with love. It doesn't have to be a reactive situation, but absolutely. And that goes for brokerages, that goes for clients, like you were saying, Alexander. I mean, I've bowed out of clients, and I swear this is the big one, is I've revisited intuition at this point in my life. And man, oh man, with intuition, if I get a niggle, whatever that is for you guys, if you get an audible voice, if you get a body sensation, 100% listen to that, because I swear to you, I allowed an opportunity for finances to get ahead of my intuition earlier this year. And that was the most arduous transaction that I was ever in, that ended up upside down and backwards. And I didn't get paid. And I gave a lot of my time that I cannot get back. And the biggest lesson in it is, right, so you're pointing out, they're going, this client, there's 3 fingers back over here. So I'm looking at the 3 fingers back over here, and I said, I didn't listen to myself. I got a niggle, and it was going to be a juicy deal, and I had some debt, and I was like, and there it went. So, just it's a lot of this like personal stuff. I've always said that real estate, or at least 100% commission sales, it's the most faith-based, non-denominational business you'll ever be in. And so know yourself, and then have that invisible box around you, and say no, and maybe give it as a referral so you don't have to leave people hanging, but move on. There is other business, and there's nothing that will age you faster than a shitty deal. And I'm just saying it. I'm saying it.
Yeah, those zeros.
That's 19 years later.
those zeros will commonly cloud your judgment.
Yeah.
Even experienced agents, you see all that possibility. That's, a couple of weeks out from hitting your bank account, and all of a sudden you become more agreeable than you really should. And it is definitely the cadence to where you need to remain on the correct path. Don't let money you haven't even gotten yet change your judgment. Because if you do it, I can totally relate to Renee. I have done that, and it turned out so bad. So bad. It's just like, wow. But you extract from that the experience, and you know not to do it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Words of wisdom. I mean, honestly, I'm just grateful to surround myself with awesome people like you guys, because that is where I get many of my niggles, as Renee calls them. And unfortunately, sometimes I still ignore them and bang my head up against the wall until I go, hey guys, there's a door right here. Maybe I should open it. And all my friends go, hey, yeah, we told you about a month and a half ago about that door. But we all live and learn, and I'm working on shortening the amount of time where I'm actually taking action on those little niggles instead of waiting and trying to process them and think them when I'm actually an intuitive decision maker. And I think that's important for everybody to note, like, how do you make decisions, and how can you make that a smaller window? Because we are better business owners the faster and more direct our decision making and communication is. So I just really appreciate your guys' insight on all of this.
Amen.
Now,
Absolutely.
it looks like Jordan had another question, so I'm going to pop it up here. can you go into using the agent as a micro flipper? Renee, you brought this up. Will you kind of explain what that means as an agent as a micro flipper and when you
Yeah,
often utilize that?
it's maybe it's not exactly the right terminology, micro flipper, but for some of those in the audience, micro flipping is kind of being the middleman to the both parties, right? So what I've done is, let's say that there's an agent who has a listing, but I know another agent who might have the buyer. So how am I going to get paid? And I've worked that a couple of different ways. And this has back to relationships and trust. No agent or really anybody is going to be so apt to be like, oh, great, take my buyer and do business with them, because folks are all like, have this thing about stealing, even though people are going to do whatever they're going to do and they're going to see names on a HUD anyway, but it's in the background. So you want to be gingerly with that. So if I have a relationship with an agent, this is not the first phone call. If I have a relationship with the agent and I go, hey, agent, do you have any buyers for X? Usually X is not a flip. X is usually something a little bit left of center, like putting an ADU on the property, or a junior ADU, which is like an adhesion to the main property. It's not a separate, property, or some kind of forced appreciation, turning a single family home into a duplex, a ready to issue, something like all of this other investment kind of stuff, that these type of buyers are not really hanging out in Facebook groups. Okay, so I know that other agents are most likely going to have relationships with these type of people. So I might cold call up an agent that I know, who I kind of know works with investors, and say, hey, do you have any current investor buyers right now looking for any one of those things that I just described? And then I will say to them, look, there's a couple different ways we can do this. You probably don't want to do it like a wholesale. So would you be opposed if you and I were on the same residential purchase agreement? Like, we're basically co-buyers agents, right? So that person doesn't have to let go of their buyer, but I'm also not technically wholesaling it, because most agents don't know how to wholesale, because if I wholesale it to the agent, then the agent has to wholesale it to their buyer, and that just doesn't make any sense, really. So I'm loosely calling it a micro flip, but you can see where I'm utilizing, the buyer's agent, if you will, as an agent, and the listing agent who called me and said, hey, I've got 123 Main Street, but I don't have a buyer for it. So instead of me throwing that away, I go to my book of business and I think, who's the agent or investor that might actually have a buyer for this, and how can we both get paid? For the agent, it's usually on the RPA. Almost every agent I've done this with has never had a problem when their name is on the RPA, which is the residential purchase agreement, or the contract, if you will. But it's ironic, because I'm still going to see the buyer's name. But here's where just, here's where you've just got to, people have to trust you. They have to know, like, and trust you. And sometimes they are throwing their hat over the fence, thinking to themselves, is Renee going to screw me on this deal? I mean, they're not going to say it, but they're going to say it a different way, or they're going to think it. And so if you can get in front of that and then just say, look, let's put our names on this together. Let's make it simple. We'll both split, or 60-40, 70-30, whatever. So I'm hoping that answered the question. So it's like a loose micro flip, but it's utilizing the agent's buyers as an opportunity if I don't have a buyer for it.
Makes sense to me. I hope it makes sense to Jordan.
Absolutely. And really, I think micro flip or those kinds of words get used often for really what means multiple players needed to close deal. So wherever you play in that, you just have to make sure that you've got communication rocking and rolling. I love this comment from Jennifer. She had to leave 2 brokerages who would not let her work in the investment space, and is now happily with EXP.
Yeah, Jennifer, I am right now vetting 2 other brokerages so I can leave Remax, and I've been at Remax like 8 years. I'm getting ready to leave from there, and I'm really liking what EXP has to say, but I'm still kind of going through the motion. So yeah, it is absolutely true, and Remax is great. I have no complaints about them, but EXP traditionally is more open-minded to other real estate strategies besides just regular retail. So the next time you see me, I might be I might be an EXP agent. Yeah. So
I started in EXP. I like them a lot. They'll always have my
yeah.
heart as being my first, but I jumped pretty quickly to LPT. When
Hmm.
they opened and kind of had their arm, what they do is very similar, but a little bit extra freedom. So I
Yeah.
took that. And yeah. Hey, Sharon, LPT. Sorry, I gotta give my people some love out there. All right, so I can't believe it, but we are
I know.
coming to the end of the hour. Um, I would like to just give you the floor, Alexander. What do you got going on in your life, your business? Who are you calling into your life? Give them a shout out here in case they happen to watch. And just, yeah, give us the goods. How can somebody work with you if they've absolutely loved your chill vibes and good responses and all that?
Oh my God, I love this woman. You guys have no idea. I love this woman. She is so awesome. Well, you can find me on Instagram at the real Alexander 314. I live in the St. Louis market, but what markets do I do business in? I do acquisitions in Dispo in St. Louis, Atlanta, and Florida. Dispo, I now can do Dispo nationally. So really doesn't matter what market you're in. If you need some help dispoing your deals, I'm more than happy to help you no matter where you are. I would definitely say make sure it is a deal before you bring it to me because you get a lot of that. People that just have an address and they're super excited. I am more than willing before you waste your time to, if you are vetting a deal and you're kind of not sure of your numbers, I'd be more than happy to help you look at that deal and just see where you need to capture it at to make money. Because a lot of people and here's something else because I have to say this. I have had it so many times where people will bring me a deal that is on market. Let's just say it's on market at $100,000, and they'll call me up and say, "Hey, Alexander, I got a deal. I really need to help me sell it." And when I go look up what they want 115. Guys, that's not a deal. Your value as a wholesaler to an end buyer. Let me just make this very plain. Your value as a wholesaler or even an agent in a wholesale capacity is your value comes to your paychecks come from being able to go get a deal that an average person cannot. So raising the price on a property that's on market doesn't bring any value. You cannot get paid off of that. So if it's 100 grand, you should probably be bringing it to me at 60, 65, 70, or depending on what your market is, those numbers can fluctuate, but you have to bring value to yourself. That is what brings value to an end buyer. And that's why they're willing to pay you $20,000. You got $100,000 house for 45. You are my best friend now. So now I can pay you 30 grand and you can walk away happy and go get another one. That's where your value comes in. So definitely before you waste your time, feel free to reach out to me. I'll look at your deals for you. I'd love to know who you are. I'd love to make a relationship with you because it's a relationship based business. I'd love to make a relationship with you. I don't care where you are. And if you feel that you have connected with me or Renee or Corianne, definitely reach out to us. We're here to help. That's what this entire channel is about. Support.
Oh,
Oh,
we love you back, Alexander.
I know we had some time. We had a chance to actually do some FaceTime last summer. That was so fun, and so yeah, nothing beats FaceTime. I
Yeah,
miss
if you
all.
guys happen to be anywhere near Alexander and actually want to meet him for coffee, and you find this out by DMing him and telling him how cool he was, which I know you're actively doing right now, give him a hug from me because he gives really good hugs. Just saying. And I'm going to go over a little bit because I am so grateful that you said this to everybody and just reminded them that we are not alchemists. Like, you are not concocting gold out of magic. You're sifting for motivation to find the gold nugget of the deal where somebody needs our services. So, thank you for reminding the people. Renee, anything to say before we're out of here and back next Tuesday at 2 Mountain Standard Time?
Stay true to who you are. You know, there's 3 different personalities on here, and we're all kind people, but maybe one of us resonates with all you guys than the other. So reach out. There's plenty of business to go around. You know, just have fun with what you're up to. And I always have to remind myself of that. You know, like Alexander said, we're not for everybody, but stay true to yourself, be kind, do right, and the business will give back to you. That I can
I
assert.
love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it is so true.
And with that, we say goodbye and go get some contracts. Bye, y'all.
See you next week.
Music. Boo! Yeah.